I'm Tarot Oracle, and I'm going to tell you how to supercharge your tarot readings. The first thing that you want to do is to avoid cold reading. So let me explain what cold reading is, how you see it, and why to avoid it. First off, cold reading is like the horoscopes that you read in the paper or online or whatever. You'll see that everybody will read a horoscope and they'll go, yeah, that kind of, because they'll agree with it because it applies to everybody. For example, you've always wanted to write a book, but it's very challenging to get the time sometimes. Or you and your spouse don't communicate well. Or when you were younger, you were worried about your appearance a lot, but now that you're older, you're kind of stronger in your self-esteem. You don't worry about that so much anymore. There's things like that. So what cold reading is the ability to say something that everybody agrees with. So why is this bad? Well, number one, if you do nothing but cold reading, which I actually ran into somebody at a psychic fair who does that. They basically just spewed cold reading statements over and over and over and over, and everybody agreed with them, and they had a good time, and they paid her. Which was just interesting to me. Basically, you've just become a mentalist, and you're pretty much a useless tarot reader at that point. I mean, cold reading, you'll accidentally run into it, and here's how it works. A lot of people don't mean to be cold readers, but they just end up doing it because they get addicted to the outcome. In other words, they'll say stuff and they'll say stuff, and finally they'll say something to the person on the other end of the table, and the person will be like, yeah, and they'll really agree with it. And so you're trying to get a reaction from them, so you're like pulling your self-worth out of this person on the other side of the table, just like, oh, give me some self-worth. And you're like, yeah, they agreed with this, yeah. And so you put it in your head that whatever you just said, you'll repeat it again and again and again. And there's a really good chance that what you just said was some type of cold reading. So you'll see this, especially people with like, I've been reading tarot 30 years, and they only cold read. I mean, at this point, they become a mentalist. They don't really read tarot at all. So they just interpret the tarot cards in a mentalist fashion and just tell people what they want to hear. So I see that a lot. And you see, sometimes the more, and again, it's because you're addicted to the reaction of the person on the other end of the table. So what you have to do, in other words, if you want to supercharge your readings, number one, you need to divorce yourself from people's reaction. In other words, read the tarot. Say what your intuition says and read the tarot. Don't get crack addicted to the person getting all excited, or don't get crack addicted to the person crying. A lot of people just cry when you say something. So, and a lot of times what you say is cold reading. So I recommend learning what cold reading is, getting an idea of the basic ideas and the basic statements that everybody agrees with, and just don't fill your readings with that. I mean, actually read the cards. I know it sounds obvious, but you will. I guarantee you will gravitate the shit towards cold reading very quickly if you're addicted to people's reactions. So I guarantee it. I've seen it over and over and over and over with many tarot readers. So just avoid it. That's number one, tip number one. The second, by far most important thing you can do to supercharge your tarot readings is to get outside of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is when you have the same two decks of cards. I mean, a lot of people, they'll write me and they'll ask, hey, Tarot Oracle, you use a different card deck every time you read. Why? Well, because it's outside of my comfort zone. You'll notice people that read and never get out of their comfort zone. Usually just, a lot of times they just stink. And comfort zone is where you use the same deck, you use the same two decks, and I'm not discouraging you from having a favorite deck. I have my favorite deck, which is this one. Everybody knows that. But, but don't lean on that and never use anything else. Use a deck that you have no idea what anything means, and throw it down and wing it. So that's basically what I'm talking about. Get out of your comfort zone is just winging it. As well as you'll see the people that have one or two spreads, they'll use the same spreads over and over. Or they'll get a book and do that. So in my complete course, I basically tell you not to use any spreads at all for the entire thing. So, but they'll do like one or two decks, and they'll do one or two spreads, and that's really all they do. And you'll see the same people again at psychic fairs, and they'll have their deck, and they'll use it over and over in the same deck, and they never really vary from that deck at all. And just in my opinion, a lot of them just are so into their comfort zone that they've gotten really basic, and they started to stink. So the solution to this is to get way outside of your comfort zone. Instead of just like, oh, I got to my deck. This is my favorite deck. This is the only one I use. It's all worn out. Let that be your favorite deck, but use other stuff. Getting out of your comfort zone will involve grabbing a deck that you have no idea what it means. I have no idea. Well, actually, I know what that means. A bad example. So, grabbing a deck that you have no idea what it means, for example, you don't know what these mean, and just throw it down and wing it. And do it for the public. Do it for actual people. And the second thing, as far as comfort zone is concerned, is go to a psychic fair or go to a place where you get paid to read. And read. I mean, even if you just totally stink, go and read. If you don't know what the cards mean, tell the person on the other side of the table, but I have no idea what these cards mean, or I have no idea what this means to you and your question, or I have no idea what the answer is. Or just be straight up honest with the people. They appreciate it, and they'll help you out as far as reading the cards. And I know that sounds terrible, like, I'm getting paid for this, and I'm telling them. I mean, even if you only do that when you're giving free readings, you need to be brutally honest. If you have no idea what the cards mean, tell them, I have no idea what these cards mean. And when you're starting out, and the people will actually, help you. Most people that come to get a tarot reading have a pretty good idea, actually, what the cards mean. So they'll help you out and stuff like that, especially if you're a beginner and things like that. I mean, you could just make the reading free. If you have no idea what it means, just say, this is free. I have no idea what it means, but I think these cards are important. Help a brother out, and things like that. So, but just vary from your basic deck that you always have. Vary spreads. Don't stick with the same spreads over and over. Get either a book with a lot more spreads, or don't use a spread. Just throw cards down and wing it. Get a deck that you're totally uncomfortable with, that you have no idea what it means. It looks weird. It feels terrible. Read with it. Get outside of your comfort zone. If you stay in your comfort zone and you never leave your comfort zone, your abilities, your technical skills with tarot will get worse and worse and worse. And it'll be a downhill spiral, and it'll be tough to get out of. If you want the people that are really good, the people that read fast, that think fast, and know a lot of information, are people that are hungry for knowledge, are the people that are way outside of their comfort zone. They want to know something they don't know. They want to use a deck they've never used before. And when you do this, and you're way outside of your comfort zone, all the time, when you finally do come back to your favorite deck and you use it, your skill level is so much better than anybody else that you're going to find. So this will rapidly, and I mean extremely rapidly, increase your skill level with tarot. Stay outside of your comfort zone. Way, way, way outside of your comfort zone. And the last tip I have for supercharging your tarot readings is to read for other people. I know we all busy. I know we have friends and relatives that don't like tarot, that think it's the devil's work. Find a place. You can go to Starbucks and read for yourself on a busy Saturday, Sunday morning, and when you're reading for yourself, people will see it and they'll be like, hey! And so they'll come over and want a free reading or want a reading or whatever. And you can go to bars, you can go to restaurants and break out tarot and play with it, and people will want readings. If they see you with cards, they want readings. And it's important to read for other people. Don't just read for yourself. Don't just read for the camera. You need to read for other people. And the reason is if you're really serious about tarot, you need to be able to connect with the person on the other side of the table. You need to be able to look them in the eye, shake their hand, smile, and ask them what their question is. Because these people will ask you questions that are just like critical. I mean, some people are like about to kill themselves, and they're coming to you looking for a reason not to kill themselves. Some people are having surgery where the doctor told them they're going to die, and they want to know from you that they're not going to die. It's critical that you connect with that person on the other side of the table by, number one, looking in their eye, number two, smiling, number three, being, well, not smiling all the time, but I mean, initially smiling and being warm, number three, having empathy and connecting with that person. If you don't have empathy with that person, if you're constantly staring at the cards and doing nothing but staring at the cards because you're used to doing it for YouTube or you're used to doing it for a bulletin board or whatever, if you're constantly staring at the cards and you don't read for other people and you're not practiced, you're not going to be able to connect to that person. They're not going to feel like they had a good reading. Period. I don't care if you're like super accurate. They're not going to feel like they had a good reading. That's basically all there is to it. So you have to practice. You have to get out there, read for other people. If you're totally lost of ideas on how to read for other people, message me, and I will tell you, I will think up a way for you to read for other people. There's so many opportunities. So once you're able to just have empathy for that person, once you're able to connect psychically, mentally, emotionally with that person over there, then you will have an astounding tarot reading. You will have a good reading overall. And again, people come to you and ask you questions that they haven't told their spouse, their mom, their therapist. They'll tell you shit that they haven't told anybody ever. So it's critical, again, to connect with them, be empathetic with them, understand what they're going through, be understanding, ask questions, and communicate and connect. If you can't connect to that person and you're staring at the cards, if you can't connect to that person because you're nervous and you're unpracticed, you're gonna be terrible, basically. So, and I've seen tarot readers like that too, that they're so involved with the cards they can't connect to the person. They're so nervous or they're so unpracticed. So my point is, if you want to supercharge tarot readings, you need to read for other human beings. You need to look at them. You need to connect with them. You need to listen to what they're saying and tell them, hey, I think that's a good question. Let's look at the cards and see what they say. And then you look at the cards together and you explain why you're telling them what you're telling them. And you just connect and you communicate with them on just a psychic, emotional, mental level. And that's a good reading, man. I mean, especially if you're going to go pro, if you're going to actually do this for psychic affairs, there's nothing short of absolutely critical to have that skill. And if you don't read for people and you go into a psychic fair raw, and you're just going to mess it up. So, I mean, go out there and read for people, get practice, connect with people. And it's a wonderful feeling to do that and have that much practice under your belt. I mean, I do like a lot of readings. And not just on YouTube, but for going here, going there, doing it over Skype, doing it here and there, and classes, and doing some lectures and stuff like that. So it's critical to have that under your belt. It's critical to practice a lot. Practice as much as you possibly can for other people. And again, if you want to supercharge your tarot reading, which I assume that's why you're watching this, that is the best way to do it. So that's the third and final tip I have for you for how to do that.